It was the year 1912. Everyone was excited. The world was buzzing with anticipation and curiosity. The RMS Titanic, the biggest ship ever, was ready for its very first trip. It was a marvel of modern engineering, a symbol of human ingenuity and ambition. This amazing ship, a fancy floating palace, was supposed to be unsinkable. Its luxurious interiors were the epitome of opulence, designed to cater to the wealthiest of passengers. People got on board in Southampton, England. They came from all walks of life, each with their own dreams and aspirations. They couldn't wait to see how fancy and grand the Titanic was. The ship was a floating city, complete with every amenity one could imagine. There were rich people, immigrants looking for a new home, and the crew ready to work. The Titanic was a microcosm of society with its own hierarchy and social structure. The Titanic started its journey, a trip that would be remembered forever. It was a voyage filled with hope and excitement as the ship sailed into the horizon. Everyone on board was thrilled. The atmosphere was electric, filled with laughter and joy as passengers celebrated the beginning of their adventure. People were amazed by the beautiful rooms, the big staircase, even the swimming pool. The Titanic was a marvel, offering luxuries that many had never seen before. The Titanic was like a mini-world, with different groups of people separated by invisible lines. First-class passengers enjoyed the height of luxury, while those in steerage had more modest accommodations. In first class, fancy drinks and food were everywhere, and there was live music. The dining rooms were grand, with chandeliers and fine china, creating an atmosphere of elegance and sophistication. Down below, people made do with less fancy rooms, carrying their hopes and dreams across the ocean. They were filled with the promise of a new life in America, despite the more humble surroundings. As the Titanic sailed toward New York City, a new life felt possible. The ship was a beacon of hope, carrying its passengers toward their dreams, but something felt a little off. There was an undercurrent of unease, a sense that not everything was as perfect as it seemed. The North Atlantic was known for its icy waters and dangerous icebergs. The crew was aware of the risks, but the ship was believed to be unsinkable. It was like the beginning of a very sad story. The Titanic's journey, filled with so much hope and promise, was about to take a tragic turn. The Titanic wasn't just big, it was huge. It was a marvel of engineering and design, a floating palace that captured the imagination of the world. Imagine a ship almost as long as 3 football fields and as tall as an 11-story building. It was a behemoth that dwarfed anything that had come before it. That's how massive the Titanic was, a giant of its time. It was not just a ship, it was a symbol of human ambition and technological progress. But its size wasn't the only amazing thing. The Titanic was also a showcase of luxury and opulence, designed to offer the finest experience to its passengers. The Titanic had super fancy things you wouldn't believe. First-class cabins were like hotel suites, complete with private bathrooms and lavish furnishings. A swimming pool, a gym, a library, and even a Turkish bath were available for the passengers' enjoyment. It was like a floating resort. There was even a place to play squash. The ship was equipped with all the amenities one could dream of, making it a paradise on the sea. It was like a floating city with everything rich people could want. The first-class passengers enjoyed a lifestyle of unparalleled luxury and comfort. Fancy ladies brought big trunks full of beautiful dresses, hats and jewelry. They traveled in style, bringing along their finest possessions. Hats, jewelry and other accessories were part of the daily attire, reflecting the elegance and sophistication of the era. When the Titanic sank, all those fancy clothes went down with it, a lost treasure at the bottom of the ocean. The wreckage now serves as a haunting reminder of the tragedy. Here's another interesting fact. There was a fancy Renault car on board. This luxury vehicle was a symbol of the wealth and status of its owner. It belonged to a man named William Carter and was in the ship's cargo hold. The car, like many other treasures, was lost to the depths of the ocean. Even though it was so big and fancy, the Titanic didn't have enough lifeboats. This oversight proved to be a fatal flaw in the ship's design. It could carry more than 3,500 people, but only had lifeboats for about half that many. This tragic shortfall led to a significant loss of life. This reminds us how important safety is, no matter how fancy or advanced something seems. The legacy of the Titanic continues to teach us valuable lessons about preparedness and caution. On the night of April 14, 1912, something unbelievable happened. The Titanic, sailing through the icy North Atlantic, hit an iceberg. At first, it didn't seem too bad, but the iceberg made holes in the side of the ship. Water started pouring in. The unsinkable ship was sinking. Everyone started to panic as they realized what was happening. The crew started putting people into lifeboats, but there weren't enough lifeboats for everyone. It was chaotic and scary. Men had to leave their families behind, watching as their loved ones got into the lifeboats, not knowing what would happen. The ship, once a symbol of how clever humans were, now showed how fragile life could be. The Titanic sat at the bottom of the ocean for over 70 years, like a silent tomb 2.5 miles underwater. Then, in 1985, a team from America and France, led by Dr. Robert Ballard, found it. Using special technology and a robot submarine called Argo, they found where the Titanic rested. Finding the Titanic made everyone interested in it again. More trips to the wreck using even better technology showed us more of the ship's secrets. They brought back pictures of things left behind, suitcases, dishes, even personal items. These trips helped us understand what happened in the Titanic's final moments, but they also made people wonder if it was right to disturb the wreck. It's a tricky question about exploring the deep ocean and protecting history. Can we bring the Titanic back up? It's a fun idea to imagine seeing this famous ship again, but it's much harder than it sounds. The ship is over 100 years old and very fragile. The metal is rusty, and the deep ocean puts a lot of pressure on it. The Titanic is also gigantic and super heavy, lifting something that weighs 46,000 tons from 2.5 miles down would be incredibly difficult and expensive. And it's not just about the difficulty and cost. Many people think the Titanic is like a graveyard, the final resting place for the 1,500 people who died. The Titanic's story reminds us that even big achievements can be fragile and that we should respect places like this. The Titanic is a sad story, but it's still important to people all over the world. It's a story about human ambition, thinking we can do anything and how unpredictable life can be. The sinking of the unsinkable ship shows that even the greatest things humans make can be destroyed by nature. Because of the disaster, there are now many more safety rules for ships, like having enough lifeboats for everyone. There's also a special group that watches for icebergs in the North Atlantic so that this doesn't happen again. The Titanic's legacy isn't just the wreck at the bottom of the ocean. It's also the lessons we learned and the stories we tell, so we never forget the Titanic and the people who died. The Titanic, once a marvel of engineering and luxury, now lies perfectly preserved at the bottom of the ocean, slowly falling apart over time. Tiny bacteria are eating away at the metal, creating rusticles, and ocean currents are constantly moving things around, accelerating the decay. Some people believe we should leave the Titanic alone, as a solemn memorial to the 1,500 souls who perished in the tragedy. They argue that it's a sacred place, a maritime graveyard that shouldn't be disturbed by human interference. On the other hand, others think it's crucial to keep exploring and studying the wreck. They believe that by doing so we can uncover more details about what happened that fateful night and preserve its history for future generations. This ongoing debate about the Titanic's future forces us to reflect on our responsibility to the past. It raises important questions about what's right and wrong when it comes to exploring the deep ocean and its many secrets. We must carefully consider the impact of our actions and strive to find a balance between exploration and preservation. By doing so, we ensure that the Titanic story and the lessons it holds can be shared and remembered for many years to come. The Titanic's story is huge and has many parts, including stories of bravery, sacrifice, and sadness. From the people on board to how the ship was built, there's so much to learn. This video has only just touched on the Titanic's history and the impact of its tragic end. I hope you'll learn more about the Titanic. Read books, watch documentaries, and look online to discover more about this fascinating and tragic event. The Titanic